Job.
I had
One job, Matt.
Thank you, Trina.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Trina.
I think you have to start over now.
Oh, do I?
No.
Yeah. Oh, I think you should.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone, to the February 2021 virtual monthly meeting of the Minnesota Astronomical Society. Just to let everybody know, we are recording this meeting. And here we go. And that button still doesn't work. I am the president of the Minnesota Astronomical Society, Mark Jobe. I know I saw Walt on the meeting tonight. He's the vice president, and Trina, the secretary, and Matt. I have not seen Conrad yet tonight. Oh, I just saw Conrad. I'm just going to admit him now. And Gunnar, I have not seen Gunnar log in yet tonight. So that is the board. And here are our faces. Quite a motley crew. Maybe someday we can all get together. So Matt, here's your slide you gave me for the treasurer's report for this month. You want to speak to it?
Yeah, I'll try to be a little quicker than usual on it, but yeah, we've basically gotten our balance back up. There's a little bit extra in there right now, but generally it hangs around that neighborhood of around 120, 130,000. And Mark has some comments about that this year. The dues, a lot of that was the end of year. The income was a lot of that was the end of year. It got the matching 10,000 plus other donations and things like that. And then expenses are pretty much the normal things. We had to, we paid for the Metcalf warming house, which was a bit of a mouse house apparently. Got that torn down, and part 2 of that will be dealt with in the spring for cleanup and removing concrete pads and stuff like that. PayPal, we mostly use that for taking in membership dues, and then periodically I will withdraw money from that and move it to the other account. So that's what you're seeing there. And then this is exciting. I think this might be an all-time high that we have membership of 609 paid members right now. Steve Emmert is our membership coordinator, and he said that he thinks a lot of that has to do with end of year and stuff like that, but it also has to do with some reminders that were sent out at the end of the year or before the end of the year as well. So they tend to get a little more of an influx because of that. Anyway, are there any questions on treasury notes or treasury report?
No, I think that's good. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
I actually, speaking of treasury notes, I do have a question. So, are we thinking about getting some investments like a 3-year note, or not 3 year, 3-month note to kind of invest our money and make a little bit that way?
Yes, it's already on our agenda for March.
Cool.
Actually, it's on the agenda for the February board meeting.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yep.
All right.
Any other questions, anybody? The Loaner School program. Anton, are you on? Yeah, you are. I see you right there.
Yes, I'm here, and the Loaner Scope program is here too. As always, members can request loaner scopes or great courses DVDs on our website under members Loaner Scope program. We haven't shut down for the winter. We've actually loaned 6 telescopes in January already, but there are telescopes available. If anybody have any questions?
Anton, do you know which scopes are available?
Yeah, let's see. There's a 10-inch Dob and an 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain, a refractor. The Skywatcher is available. The 5-inch Schmidt Cassegrain is available. Oh, looks like the hardened Dob maybe as well. That's another 10-inch. So an assortment.
And what is the usual routine for asking for a loaner scope?
Well, there's a form on the website under members Loaner Scope program. There's a form to fill out. A member is asked to give their first 3 choices for a telescope, or if they want a DVD, just type it in the comments section. And then I contact that member and we arrange to meet in my driveway, wearing masks and observing some social distance. And we go through the checkout procedure. The member can keep the telescope for a month. And then we arrange another appointment in my driveway to return it. You know, and I just listed the telescopes that I have on hand now. But you know, there are some that are out, but you know, in the next couple of weeks they'll be in. So you know, it's a cycle. Don't hesitate to ask for whatever telescope you like.
Terrific, Anton. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up, celestial events. Something that's not a celestial event that I just saw is that tomorrow is the 50th anniversary of Apollo 14 landing. I thought that was kind of cool. But here are the other ones. The actual celestial events. Last quarter moon is today. Mercury inferior conjunction. The ones that get me excited are new moon, because that guarantees at least 3 days of clouds, both before and after the new moon. And then one, I'm getting excited about the you know, Mercury and getting close to Saturn, and I would hope to be able to see that. I don't know if we can or not. I think it's still gonna be too close to the sun, but it should be kind of cool. And then our next meeting, March 4th. That will be virtual again, and keep an eye on the website. That's where we'll post the link. And as far as I know, there's nothing planned for any star parties. I do know that there is a Carver County snowshoe cross-country ski event that is on their calendar. They haven't invited us yet, but I'm going to work on that. We'll see what we can do about that. So then watch the forums if you're interested. And obviously, if you're signed up for Carver County's updates, email updates, you'd get something there. And the next, so there's a BSIG event coming up, I guess, with our own David Faulkner. It's got a little thing going on with Zoom. The mythology of the night sky. Dave, you want to just speak to that for just a couple of minutes, if you want?
Yeah. So as some of you know, my second edition of my book just came out, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about the mythology of the night sky, and how the mythological names have often has also kind of expanded out into the solar system. So I think it'll be an interesting talk, and I hope everybody's going to be able to attend.
Awesome.
I just had a quick question for you. Can you explain what BSIG is for those who might not know?
Sure. BSIG stands for the Beginners Special Interest Group, and it's a group that within the Minnesota Astronomical Society that is targeted more toward newbies to the hobby, if you would, of astronomy. And we help people out with, Suresh is actually in charge of this, but we introduce people to astronomical terms. We help them with their telescopes when we go out viewing. As weather gets warmer, Suresh has these awesome star parties that we invite folks to come out to and bring their telescopes. And if they aren't real comfortable with how they use a telescope, we'll help them out with that. And it's just designed to get folks who are interested in astronomy and interested in the hobby to get acclimated to it, because it can be a little bit overwhelming if you don't have a little bit of help along the way.
Yeah, and one comment I'd like to add is everybody's a beginner at something, and the topics do shift around. So something like this would be something I'd be a beginner at. So that'd be interesting.
And certainly veterans are also invited to come as well. I always like to have folks who are familiar with astronomy as well to come.
Thank you, Dave. Next slide. PSA. So being the president, you know, you get a bunch of mail once in a while. I found this interesting, an astrophotography competition. If anybody's interested, please contact me. They're taking submissions until the 31st of March, and looks like you can win some cash, even though it's in euros. But they are it's open. They sent it to us, so that it must be open to us too, being in North America, in the US. So if anybody's interested, get a hold of me. And then us in the imaging SIG are working on an AP workshop in August. So save the date. We got some things cooking. We'll see how that goes. You know, we do kind of need to get back almost to normal, so we can get together in the classroom and get together and hang out outside. So we're going to kind of just monitor and play it by ear. We'll see where it goes. And then, as always, Father Brown is always calling for Gemini articles. I just breezed through the Gemini this afternoon, and was quite impressed with all the different articles from all kinds of people. Some people I had never seen author articles before. I thought that was awesome. So keep it up. Keep submitting those articles. Looks like it's working fine. I haven't received an email yet from Father Brown saying, hey, I need some articles. So I have to believe that he has a decent stockpile, but I'm sure he would love to have others and have an even bigger stockpile. So send them in. So one of the main reasons we're here tonight is to talk about the 2021 budget. The board has met, and we've talked and discussed and analyzed the requests from the sites. We've looked at, we've looked at the past, we've looked at what we think the future might bring, and then we made a budget. But just to kind of take a spotlight and shine a spotlight on the past, we did spend a little money out there in Onan. I want just to remind the membership, yes, we spent $85,692 out there, but that was all covered by very generous donors to basically cover the cost of that repair that we did to the Onan Observatory did not cost us any money as far as the club is concerned. And then the other big project is kind of in the shadow there is the repair of the Joseph J. Casby Dome, which was damaged by a hot air balloon. And that was all covered by insurance. It did cost us $500 deductible, which is, kind of a standard operating procedure there. And then we have a growing membership. This is exciting to be a member of this club, because this club is growing. You saw in Matt's report, there's 609 members. Well, when I prepared this slide, there was only 588, and that was at the end of December. So that's the number I used. So I think that net gain is large. So congratulations, welcome, thank you. I don't know what else to say. It's a great thing. It would be bad to sit here and have to have a discussion about, hey, what are we going to do to get more members? Well, whatever we've been doing over the last year, I think we need to continue to do. So, that goes to, I guess this meeting is one of the big things we do, obviously every month. And then there's the BSIG virtual things we've been doing. Those, have been well received and well attended. And then there were star parties. We did have star parties last fall and last summer, even under those heavy restrictions. So we just need to keep doing that and doing that the way we've been doing it. So we made some assumptions on the 2021 budget. It was based on the fact that we maintain this membership. including our 180 patron members. And we're also considering the fact that our designated and non-designated donations remain the same. And we're hoping that our insurance remains flat, even though, we did have a claim. But there's no guarantees there either. Somebody there presses some buttons and crunches some numbers and comes up with what our premium should be. Hopefully that stays the same, but otherwise electricity on our website, I believe, we're gonna work on the website, and that's coming up here later, but electricity hopefully will remain flat, and our other costs. So we'll see where it goes. So our 2021 budget, I kind of pulled all of this out. This is going to be the year that we spend some money at the sites. Every site has asked for money, including the Loner Scope. I lumped them in as being a site. Everybody's asked for money, including the board. The board is asking for money to do some work on the website. So there's LLCC. They have some things they want to do to the 30-inch to do some repairs. CGO has a nice list of projects they want to do, and I don't see any reason why not to fund those projects. They want to make site improvements. They're gonna put in a porta potty. They're gonna put in some light fences. They want to put some pads in with electricity. I, as an imager, would be excited about that, to be able to come down and set my rig up on a concrete pad and plug into the site power and to be able to run all night and not have to worry about a battery and have a nice nice place to take a break when I need to take a break. So that'll be very welcoming down there, I'm sure, for everyone. JJC Metcalf, we kind of lumped them together. They have some projects. They want to work on a boardwalk, and I believe that the tear down of the warming house at Metcalf is included in this $3,900. And then there's ELO. ELO has they have a few things they want to do. The number one thing they want to do is they want to work on the project to get the roof powered for the Onan Observatory, which part of the repair was to make it smoother, make it easier. That might not have turned out exactly the way we wanted it, but we know it's better. We know it's great, actually. And now I think is the time that if we get it powered, then if a single member is out there, then they can open and close it safely, and not have to worry about them being injured or anyone else getting injured, especially if it's in the wintertime. That way everything can be done from the inside the building. Nobody has to be outside pushing and grunting on the snow and ice. The MAS website, my understanding is we kind of have 2 or 3 systems that are kind of cobbled together between the actual website that everybody sees on mnastro.org, and then we have some things that run in the background, which are the forums and things like that, and that's scattered on something that's totally separate from where we operate and store our website. And then I believe that there's something else that's associated with the old website yet, going back years from when we did the remodel on the website. So this is going to give us an opportunity to kind of get everything back under one roof, so we can better monitor it, better control it, better maintain security, and then also make it easier for some of us that aren't quite up to speed on being able to go in there and update it. This will allow some of the simpler tasks that just is an admin thing to just let somebody in and do that. I think that's good. That way we're not relying on one person. And also we know that we don't have the talent inside, so we are actually going to hire somebody to do that work for us, and to integrate everything together, and maybe update some things about how we do the forums and things like that. So I think that's big. When that works out, that'll be I think that'll be a real improvement for everyone, and usability and accessibility and things like that. And then my understanding is the Loaner Scope program, some of that money that, it's all lumped in there together. Some of that is for the rental of the storage shed, but the rest of it is updating and reworking and improving some of the scopes. I understand some of them are getting tired, and the Loaner Scope team will start ordering parts and fixing things as those scopes come available. And it costs us money every year anyway just to maintain that stable of scopes, and I think it's a real asset. It's huge. I hope that's one of the reasons that we've seen membership jump too, is that we have the opportunity for people to borrow a scope, take it out, use it for themselves, make a decision as to what they want to buy or what they don't want to buy. 10, 11 years ago, I was a newbie to this club, and the Loaner Scope program helped me. The stable was a lot smaller, I'll tell you, but they still had what I needed and helped me make a decision. So that was key. So here we go, next slide. So this is the actual spreadsheet that we worked on as a board, using inputs from the past, using some forecasts. There's some areas in here where we've talked about where we might be a little conservative, especially in the area of where it comes out for public activities, public donations at star parties and then the money that we get there, including even including our Camping with the Stars, the regional events we have, LLCC, and even our own internal events. I guess we probably don't charge any money for that. The Messier Marathon and the Virgo Venture and things like that. I guess we don't charge any money for that. Maybe that's something we should change, maybe. But so we kind of knock some of that money down as income, just because we're not sure. We don't know when we're going to meet face to face again. There's a couple of reasons for that. Well, there's the COVID thing, and then we learned in the last month or so, or two, that the building we used to meet in, it's doomed for destruction. It's going to hit the big balls, the wrecking balls coming for it. So we don't really know what's in store for us there. So that's also an unknown. They think they might be ready for us by October, but we don't know whether or not we're going to be ready to meet before that, and if we can, what's that going to look like? And so that's why we're kind of pretty conservative there.
So Mark,
yes.
Would it be fair to say we're kind of looking into the future for a meeting place that can handle our crowd size?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So if anybody knows of a meeting space that can be, rented by nonprofits, that's nice.
Why do we have to pay? Can't we get it for free? We're a nonprofit.
Well, that's my kind of the underlying question, but we do pay for the community center when we're going there. So, it's still possible. We're just looking at what our options are. And I think our attendance was pretty good. It was like, sometimes it'd be up to around 100 people or so.
Yeah, we were in that 90 to 100 sometimes. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is Dave, and I think that the community center offered a couple things to us that other places couldn't. One, besides being a nice large room, probably the biggest one was that they guaranteed that we had that room the first Thursday of every month, and that was huge for us to be able to have that. And so it was. I think obviously they're not a library. They're the public sector. So, but we did pay a little bit for that room, but I think just having a large room that was guaranteed to us every Thursday was really something that was well worth the money we spent on that. And Mark, I'm going to tell you, I think that you've got your work cut out for you to be able to find that kind of arrangement in the future.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree with you.
And it was centrally located.
Yes, that too.
That
That
too.
too.
I agree. I was involved in finding us that room when I was on the board, and I scoured the metro area looking for a place that was open, that was public, that was open at that time of night. And like Dave said, to guarantee us the first Thursday of every month, and then being able to be flexible for, New Year's Day and the 4th of July, those two holidays, to allow us to push it one way or the other, 1 week or the other. And, I remember having that conversation with them, and there really wasn't anywhere else around. I have to admit. So that's why we're there. And, it was a jump. I mean, we went from a classroom where we were getting 30, well, we were jamming probably 40 people in that little classroom where there probably shouldn't have been more than 30 in there. And then we moved to the great room, and, there we are today. So, but not so much today. Let's see. I don't really have any other comments about this. I mean, we show the actuals coming in from for 2020. We didn't exactly transfer those right directly across, as saying that those are going to be what our plan is for 2021, and some of those obvious reasons. We're not getting a big donation for owning it this year for sure, and hopefully we don't have any more claims against any of our property. So let me move on to the expense side of the spreadsheet. I hope everybody can see this. I tried to make it as big as I could. So
Say,
here again,
Mark,
the highlighted cells are the cells which are designated as special projects. And what you'll see is basically that if we didn't do any special projects this year, we would still be able to fund ourselves. We wouldn't have to dip into any of our money on hand to be able to operate business as normal based on these numbers right here. The special projects is going to dip into that money that we've taken in over the years that was designated as special project money. And that's the board's intention this year, is to tap into some of that money and make some improvements. Some of them are huge. Some of them are, just kind of normal every year, making the site better type of thing. And I don't think there's any worries, or should be any worries from any members about us, spending down the treasury, so to speak. Just because we're being responsible. We're not going to go spend all $120,000 that we have in there. We're going to go and spend about $30,000, $33,000 of what has been set aside as special projects. Everything else remaining the same, our membership and our incoming from all of our patrons, our very generous patrons, and our generous donors that just flat out just write a check to us. All of those, if that all remains the same, we will cover our operating expenses, and maybe we get a little extra, and we don't have to spend quite as much as the treasury as we have laid out here. So this is our budget. If there are any questions, any comments, if there's any board members that want to comment, I certainly would ask you to do that.
say, Mark,
Yes.
this is John. On the JJC dome repair,
Yes.
That was at 11,729. Actually, it was half that cost because they cut our bill way down because we were really thorough at putting scaffolding in the building so they could get to the repairs.
Yeah, right. It was $7,013 right here.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
$7,413.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was an accounting thing where basically I had to pay out of that fund from the 11,000 that was paid in. I had to pay out 4,000 back to the insurance company.
Oh, okay.
Rough numbers.
Any other comments? Any other questions from anybody?
I want to make a brief comment on the website, if I may.
Yes, Waltz, please.
So one of the goals is to consolidate most of our web tools and to make it easier for our volunteers to update the website. But the other thing is we want to enable the calendar to make it a useful tool so everybody has an active calendar in their pocket, consolidate how everybody uses the calendar, and then consolidate as well the forum, and maybe moving to a more modern platform. We don't know what that platform is going to be, but we want to make sure that it integrates with our WordPress site and everything is good. So it's really a win-win for all the members and the volunteers that maintain the website. And long-term, it's going to be we'll be paying less website fees going forward.
And Mark, if I could, I just wanted to add some color commentary, is that when we're spending money towards special projects, what we're trying to do is make this a better and a better club with better and better sites with some really nice gear. And that when you're a member, you can take advantage of that gear, and whether you're doing astrophotography or who knows what, all kinds of different observing you can do. And then also to make it more attractive to the public, and we'll have better facilities for education and outreach, which is also a big chunk of our mission. So that's kind of the philosophy for the year, is let's do what we can here. We don't need to keep this money in the bank as long as we're financially sound, and let's use it for really making this even better than it already is.
And Matt, you make a good point. Something that I'm gonna throw it out there. I mean, yes, we have a very nice treasury rate right now, but if you look back at this slide here, notice that, well, I guess, yeah, so we have $33,854 coming in. And like I said, if you take the special projects out of the 65,790, there's the possibility that someday we might have to have a conversation about raising the rent, about raising the cost of membership. And I'm not talking about huge. I'm talking about, $3, $4, $5 from each member. That certainly gives us something to think about. I'm not saying that we're going to do it this year or we're going to do it next year. I'm just saying, members, I want you to know that we're leaning pretty hard on our patrons, and we're leaning pretty hard on our other donors to maintain a budget for operating that really, the way I understand the club was set up is that, all that patron money was supposed to go into a special projects fund. At least that's the way I understand it from the past. And right now we are using that money really as operating money. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm not saying that, we need to go and raise the dues this year, but it's something that we may consider and have a conversation about next year. It's just something that we should talk about, because it's if we're going to maintain these facilities and offer all of these services and all of these outlets for people to use, it's going to cost us money, and it does cost us money. It costs money to maintain it, so I want to just put that as a thought in the back of everyone's mind, is that, someday we're going to ask for more money. And I don't, I know we have a good deal going. I mean, I presented it to potential members, and I just go, hey, look, for $26, did you know? Did you know that you can sign up, be a member of this club, and come out here and get trained to whichever site you're at, and we'll give you the keys to the facility. You can come and use it anytime you want. Now, I don't think it took me more than a couple hours or a couple minutes to think about that when I was told that. And, I was immediately a key holder at ELO within however time it took them to arrange a training. So that I think is key. And I know the operations that's Cherry Grove. I know that you can go down there and be trained, just by showing up some nights. If the right combination of people are down there, you can be trained down there. So that's kind of cool. And that's cost just $26. That's where I am with this. Any other comments from anybody? My phone was dinging. I know. I bet
Yeah.
26 bucks a year is ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
I want to throw that in there.
Yeah, if we compare it to other clubs across the country, yeah, it is ridiculously cheap. Dave, you may be able to recall when we last raised it. It was during your previous tenure as president, so it must be around 10
Yes.
years ago.
Oh my gosh, we raised it from 24 to 26. Oh my gosh. You'd think we were raising it to 100, but
Hey, don't give me any ideas. That might
Yeah, right.
but
I think another observation too is we have a surprisingly large percentage of the members that are patron members. I don't have the numbers directly in front of me, but it's huge as compared to, I look back at some really early, probably in the mid aughts, 2004, 2005, 2006 timeframe. And I think at that time we only had something on the order of 30 or 40 at the most patron members, as compared to about nearly
I have
a quarter of our
180
membership right now.
Steve, I have
So-
180 is what we had, I think, when we did the budget.
and I think that's a testament to the membership to recognize that we do have an amazing club here. We have some amazing equipment that's available to everybody. We have the sites that are available, and I think that there's that there's a portion of the membership that recognizes that value and is willing to contribute to maintain it.
Say, this is Merle. And I just, do you guys recall when we had the fees actually, or the membership dues at $28 and they were lowered?
Yeah, briefly, yes.
Yes.
We lowered them because we made the Gemini online, right? We went away from publishing the Gemini every month in a paper form to all the membership to an online.
Well,
And
actually, that was an intermediate step there, Dave. Remember, we included the Gemini in the basic membership fee, and then we made, because the Gemini publishing costs were so high, we started charging $9, and
That's
we
right.
reduced the
Yep.
fee.
Yeah, we did.
But now, when we finally decided to go paperless, the last estimate I had was a subscription if we were to maintain a subscription, it would have ended up costing on the order of $22 or $23 per subscription if we wanted to actually maintain that. So that's why it was decided to go off and make it an electronic totally.
Sure.
So is there any further discussion that anybody has to say? Okay, so
Mark?
yes.
Oh, excuse me. Just,
Go ahead.
we have the Metcalf tear down going on.
Yep.
And so at some point, we'll probably have a special project to put up a new structure,
Yep.
but we're not quite or absolutely sure where that's going to be, because Bellin is supposed to show us other potential sites on their huge acreage that might have better open sky.
Right.
And we were supposed to do that last year, but because of COVID, Bellin was kind of skittish about getting together to show us other sites or other possible sites.
Right. And what we thought we put that into the budget for 2022 and do that project in 2022 is
Right.
what the board's thought was. Unless this thing opens up and, we can get all these problems solved, well then, obviously we'd have to come back and depending upon how much money that is, we may have to have a special meeting.
Right. Yeah, it may take until 2022 to figure out what to do with that.
That's kind of what
There's
we're,
also, there's also the expense if we do put the building there, or replace the building at Metcalf, then we have to get Excel to rewire, put a new pole in and all that stuff, and that could cost a lot of money. So we kind of want to be sure that we really want to rebuild there.
right.
So we'll find out more as the year goes on.
Yep. Thank you, John. Thank you for that
Sure.
update.
Sure.
And this is Merle again. Yeah, this is Merle again. I just wanted to ask if we could get a breakdown on what the $10,700 web service improvements, that's the single largest number on the sheet there.
Yes, it is, Merle.
So,
We have a quote. We have a quote, and we need to get other quotes. We know that. The first quote we got was around $8,000 some with a pretty nice discount. So we just lobbed a number in there of 10,000, hoping that it's $10,000 or less. If we go with the only quote we have today, then we're going to be down less than $9,000 is my understanding. Part of that $700 is actually our everyday operating expenses. So really the website improvement is $10,000 is what the budget.
So the quote for the website interopment, really the scope of the job is to redesign the templates, make it all integratable, consolidate the forums into the main site, and do everything, consolidate it all into one with one main theme. Whether we keep our old identity and our old logos and stuff, that's all kind of up in the air. What we're going to do in terms of the style and everything, but the company that did quote us so far is proposing to do that and give us a basic framework for the website, and then we would move it all into a single consolidated web server.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Had we talked with the nerd people? I'm sorry. Who did our website redo?
Yeah, the nerdery did it.
Nerdery, yes.
Well, yes and no. The Nerdery hosted
That's true.
the all-night challenge. I don't think it was Nerdery personnel who did the website, however. I think it was a kind of a group of people who got together who were all web type folks, but I don't think they worked for the Nerdery. I think they worked for different firms, but they were just different people with different talents who put it together. We got that for free. So
right, yeah, that was one of the groups that they had sign up to do that 24-hour challenge. Yes,
right, exactly.
So one of the main goals of that is to make a very, very standardized template for us, because one of the issues that we have with the current site is there's a lot of specialized little hooks and bugs in the templates, and there's some code behind the scenes that not a lot of people are familiar with. So what we want to do is make it as easy for the volunteers to update the WordPress site and maintain it and in a real-time fashion as easy as possible.
okay.
Brandon Hamill, you have a question?
No, good work on this budget, guys. I appreciate this. I just wanted to chime in. I didn't want to speak over anyone. There's some really good comments that have just been made. But now, look, I definitely support the fact that you guys might revisit these dues. I will tell you just a real quick story. This is a couple of years ago. I was speaking to the Fort Worth Astronomy Club, which is a really big club, not as big as ours, but it's big. And somehow it came up that our dues were $26, and they kind of started laughing. They thought that was like a student membership, and I said, no, that's for the whole family. I really do think it is very low for the value we provide. So I think that's definitely something, Mark, for you guys to take a strong look at.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, and I kind of want to make clear that, we're not doing a fundraiser tonight thinking we need to raise funds or raise the raise the dues. That's not where we're at, but we're just looking at it from the sustainability down the road. You know, we want to be able to pay our normal expenses every year from our dues and our normal income, and leave the extra donations and patron membership extra and things like that. We want to leave that for the special projects, and we're not quite there where we're at right now.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, so we should vote on this budget. And one way for us to vote on it is down in the bottom of your toolbar for the Zoom meeting. There's a button called reactions. And you can either do either the thumbs up if you approve it, or the crying one, I guess, is the one you can use if you don't agree with it. And go ahead and take, let's take like 30 seconds. And then if everybody can find that, and just let us know whether or not this is good or bad.
Depending
You
on
talking
your
about good or bad for the
platform.
budget, or good or bad for the price increase?
No, there's no price increase. We're approving this budget for the way we have presented it tonight. There's going to be no increase tonight.
Depending on the platform you're running your Zoom meeting on, you may or may not have those buttons. I don't.
Oh.
So if you're looking for a consensus, Mark, I might not get you as many votes.
And I'm finding that the thumbs up are going away so fast. I don't want to miss any if anybody's got any objections. If there are any objections, it's a friendly community here. Maybe you should raise them and we can talk
Yep.
about it too.
Absolutely. If somebody absolutely objects to this budget that we presented tonight, please open your mic and speak.
Or put it in the chat.
Or put it in the chat. That's a good place for it too.
Yeah, I'm watching that. Yeah. I mean,
I haven't seen anything.
it's a club for us. So, and you guys, and anybody who's listening, you can always talk to a board member. You can contact us through the website by looking at the leadership. You go under I can't remember exactly the tab, but you look for leadership and stuff like that. And you'll find ways to contact us, and it will generate an email. You can send us comments. We want to be accessible to everybody.
Absolutely. And anybody can send me an email anytime. If you have my personal email, you can certainly do that. So let's move on, because I haven't seen enough negative to say that we are not. So I'm moving on to the next slide. Any questions or concerns? I think we aired that out quite well. I threatened
People can
last
keep voting
month.
though if they want.
Go ahead, Waltz, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying, people can keep putting their yes or no in the chat while we continue on with the meeting.
Absolutely, thank you. I threatened you last month, better know a constellation. I'm going to blow that off this month because Jerry Jones is going to get the spotlight here for a couple minutes. Maybe even a little longer. Jerry, you on?
Can you hear me?
Good job, Jerry.
Hey, well, that's the first step. Now the second step is, can I figure out how to share my screen?
Okay, now go down to the bottom of your screen there and hit share screen. First, do you have any awards for this month?
I don't.
So that
Can you
means we
guys-
get you for like maybe a full 30.
Can you guys see that on the screen? Is that all right?
We can't see that.
Not yet.
Uh-oh. All right, let's try it again.
I gave you full control.
That's a frightening thought.
It was.
There we go.
There it is.
It was really hard for me to do that, Jerry.
I know. You're such a control freak. All right, Steve.
It's in Jerry's very good hands.
Haha. Bwahaha.
Go, Jerry. Go, Jerry.
Okay, so you guys can see my front screen, can you?
It's beautiful.
Okay, so somebody
than
let me know if I screw up, because I may not know. Well, I'm going to try to be almost as exciting as the budget. I know that's a challenge.
Jerry.
But nice job, Mark. Well done. That's not an easy thing to do. So well done on that. But I have been wanting to do this presentation actually for quite a long time. I have been working on this project, half a year or something like that. And it's really great. And it's brand new. And so I am thrilled for the opportunity to share with you the Multiple Star Observing Program. So here we go. Well, before we start, my machine isn't working. Oh, there we go. Okay, did you guys see the screen change?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
well.
great. Yep, awesome. Okay, so just make sure that anyone doesn't know who the Astronomical League is. It is our parent organization. We are connected to the Astronomical League, and we do give them dues. It's made up of over 240 local amateur astronomy clubs all across the U.S. And the purpose is threefold. You can see it right there. First of all, is to foster astronomical education, and they do that through their conventions and through supporting educational opportunities for kids in particular. For assisting communication among amateur astronomer societies, working for we are part of a larger not quite as large as the Astronomical League, but a portion of the Astronomical League called the NCRAL, which helps us connect with other astronomical societies and provide incentives for astronomical observation and research. And two of those aspects, of course, are all the pro-am things that they pull together and the astronomical observing projects. And that's what I want to share one of those with you this evening. So the Multiple Star Observing Program, it is observing and sketching close groupings of stars. Now, these are not asterisms. These are actual historical, well-defined groupings of stars. One of the great things about the Multiple Star Observing Project is that it can be done in suburban skies, in light polluted skies. Their recommendation is a minimum, as it says on the screen there, 80 millimeters. That's assuming fairly decent skies. But this works really quite well with like a C8, like an 8-inch or a 6-inch refractor or anything like that. What it requires more than transparency, it requires decent seeing. Now, we don't get a ton of that around here, but truth be told, we get more decent seeing in the suburban area of Minneapolis, St. Paul than we do a lot of transparent skies. So it becomes something that, yes, we can actually benefit from and do and really enjoy. So that's one of the cool things about it. Another thing is that the freedom to use whatever telescope is wide open. You can use a go-to scope, you can star hop, you can even use a remote scope if you so desire. And that's pretty cool. And like so many of the especially the newer Astronomical League projects, there are two different tracks. There's both a visual track and an imaging track. And that's pretty cool, because obviously some of us are more interested in the visual, some of us are more interested in the imaging, but here's an opportunity to really be able to do both or one or the other. Now, the number of observations that are required is 100, and they have 114 listed. A sketch is required, and this really is kind of where the importance occurs. This is more than just nice fuzzy, faint fuzzy sort of thing. And I'll get to that in a little bit. And then, of course, the standard details, seeing transparency, the type of scope, the eyepiece location, all that kind of stuff, all that is there. All right, so here's the important stuff, of course, all those of us who are going after the glitter. That's what the pin looks like. It's kind of a cool pin. In fact, we'll even talk about that particular multiple star system in just a second. So some more information about the Multiple Star Project. It's really quite new. It's only been around for a couple of years. I started it this last summer, and it had maybe been going on for maybe a year. So in some ways, some of the bugs aren't entirely worked out, but the guys that are pulling it together are really pretty top notch, and I've been really pretty impressed with them. And at this point in time, there are only 9 that have been awarded, which is kind of cool. So we're kind of at the ground level. This is considered an intermediate or maybe even an advanced. Anyone who wants to do it to get either the pin or the certification really needs to do the Double Star project first. And that makes sense, because in the Double Star project, you learn about position angle and you learn about separation and those sorts of things. And this really adds on to that. So it's not necessarily an easy project, but because of that, but it certainly is really, really worth doing. The list includes a combination of physical systems as well as optical systems. The difference, though, unlike an asterism, which is clearly just it's just an optical system. It just happens to look like that because it's in the same line of sight as we are. These are systems that have historical content. Some of them were discovered by the Herschels, some of them by Struve, some of them by other famous astronomers over the course of time. So they all have some history and some intent. And some of them, of course, they didn't know whether they were an actual physical system or not, but many of them are indeed gravitationally bound. So when I asked one of the directors of the project, so I'm going to share this on Thursday night. What do you want me to tell the guys, tell the people out there? And one of the major things he said was, tell people they're not asterisms. They're in fact actual physical systems. That's kind of cool. This is one of the things that I think that is, for me, is pretty cool, is that it really is a group of some of the most pleasant star groupings in the sky. And a little bit more about that a little bit later on. So here's the task. You have to locate, you sketch, you determine the primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary members. What makes it difficult is that some of the stars are fairly dim, 13, 14th mag. Now, not many of them. As I'm looking through the list, I'm looking at the list right now as I speak, and I'm seeing some 6s and some 7s and 8s and 9s and 10s and 12s, 11s and 12s. And there aren't very many 13s, but there are a couple. And the other thing that makes it more interesting, more challenging, is that the separations are really pretty small. The smallest one, I think, is RA Cass, is 0.8 arc second. And so that's pretty darn hard for us to see with anything around this area. You have to get to some fairly specific skies. But most of the separations are again in arc seconds, anywhere from 10 to hundreds of arc seconds. So some of them are really challenging, but for the most part, most of them are really pretty decent. All of the position angle and separation distances are given, and I'll show you that in a second. So really the question is always, who's who? When you're looking at this list of stars, who's who? And that's where the challenges become. So some of the challenges are, first of all, finding them. This is the alphabet soup that many of them are designated. Each one of those relates to a particular either astronomical database or a particular astronomer who initially saw them and found them. So that's a first step. It's just finding them. Luckily, Sky Safari Pro has the majority of the STF, this is Otto Struve, and whether Struve the father actually means STF, it might be something else. I've read a couple of different determinations, but I think Struve the father is kind of cool. And then also the primary star can often be found as either an HD, the Henry Draper, or the SAO, Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory. But STF is the primary listing. And in fact, they do provide a sky list, which is a list that Sky Safari Pro will use. So if you own Sky Safari Pro, then you've really got them down. If you don't own Sky Safari Pro and you want to go after them, it takes a little bit more work. But that's where a catalog called the Washington Double Star Catalog really comes into play. Now, this is the catalog that's supported by the U.S. Naval Observatory, and it is the world's principal catalog for any multiple star listings, double star, multiple star listings. And while I don't know who did it, some wonderful Italian wrote a marvelous search engine called Stelladappi. So it's really fairly easy and straightforward to search. And it really doesn't take a whole lot of time to punch the numbers that are on the list itself, if you don't have Sky Safari Pro, to figure out really what's going on. But that's the first step. You kind of got to figure out, okay, what am I looking at and where the heck is it? So the second thing then, once you've found them, is knowing which is which. Which star is which star? Which star is A, B, C, D, E, F, sometimes even G. Luckily, all the position angles and the separations are given. So what it really becomes is a puzzle. What's there? What can I suss out from the information I'm given? And what am I looking at? And I have found that some good Google searches can help. Not only the Washington double star, but Cloudy Nights and other places. You punch in a particular nomenclature, and you can get a lot of people saying, "Yep, I found it over here. Yep, this is what it looks like." That sort of thing. So that's kind of cool. And then the third thing is you sketch the stars to match whichever it's, whether it's the primary, secondary, tertiary, that sort of thing. So that's kind of how it works. Okay, so here's an example. So here's a sample from the list itself. I'm hoping you guys can see my cursor here. And you can see over here, we have constellation, we have the first star, the bright star, the primary star, star A, the mag of star B, the mag of star C, the mag of star D. And if there are more, then they will be figured out. And then we have the separation between A and B. Now, these separations are arc seconds. Many times we see separations as in degrees or in minutes, but because some of them are so small, they decided to maintain it in arc seconds. So you can get quite a number of, like here's the separation here is 169.5 arc seconds. So I had to rewrite many of my charts that I use on my telescopes because I had most of mine set, my field of views set for either degrees or minutes. And so I had to rewrite them seconds. So I could tell when I'm looking at an eyepiece and I've got 3,000 seconds of arc. Well, that gives me an idea, excuse me, of what's going on. And then we have the position angle A to B, A to C, A to D, and then any others. And just briefly, the position angle is if you take a clock face and you put north at the top, east is going to be 90 degrees, south is going to be 180, west is going to be 270, and north is either going to be 0 or 360. So that's where you get these numbers. And that gives you kind of an idea, like this is directly east. Now, obviously, because our telescopes flip things around, we have to be aware of whether we're using a Newtonian, whether we're using a refractor or a Schmidt-Cassegrain. They do different things. And of course, there's the RA and the DEC. Okay, so we're going to take a look at STF 1604 in Corvus. Excuse me. And this is what it looks like. And we have A, B, and C. Now, if we take a look at this, we notice, first of all, you might think that B is always going to be the second brightest, but this is not the case. Remembering that so many of these are historical, and the exact magnifications either may not have been able to have been seen really well or be determined. Magnifications before photometrics is always kind of a subjective thing. So here we have A at 6.8 mag. Here we have B at 10. And you can see that it's smaller. And we have C over here at 8.1. And then we have the separation between A and B being 7.5 and the separation A and C being 10.4, a little bit larger. You can see that. This is going to be a little harder to determine because we don't really know where north is. Once you determine north, then you can figure that out. Well, so here was my attempt. So you can see that I did this on 4/22 of this last year, Corvus 1604, 12:45 a.m. I used a C8 at F10. And here's my north, here's my west. And you can see really what happens here. If you just flip this over, then we would be in position. And so we can see that, well, my B is a little closer than my C. And my C is certainly larger than my B, and of course they're both smaller than my A. So these are the sorts of things you need to be able to do. And then, so if you take a look at this and you say, okay, well, A to B is 89. Well, that's almost 90, which means it should be almost to the east. Well, if we were to draw a clock face through A here, and sure enough, here would be east, and I've got it pretty close. And the position angle of A to C, well, I didn't maybe do that quite perfectly, but if this is 0, this is, but you could easily see, you could easily, and the big thing is being able to determine which one's A, which one's B, and which one's C. And I've got that down. It's not by any stretch of the imagination perfect, but I will say that I did send this one to the coordinators, and they signed off on it and said it was fine. So that's one example. That's a little easier. So here's another example that's just a little more challenging. So this is HJ for John Herschel, 1823. It's in Lacerda. This has 5 different members in this one. A is 706. B is, as you can tell, is dimmer than C. D is about the same as B, and E is about the same as C. So we've got some mix up here. We have A to B is 18.7, A to C is 81. So this is going to be quite a bit larger, 3 times larger, 4 times larger. The separation of A to D is 119, even farther yet. Now you notice we don't have the separation from A to E, but we do have A to D, but we do have the separation from C to D. So that's going to come into play a little bit. Position angle, this is going to be almost west. This is going to be almost north, and again, almost west. So the trick here is with this information, looking at the sky in your eyepiece and saying, well, which is which? So here's an example from Sky Safari. And now we're looking at it and we're seeing quite a number of stars here, but we're going to guess that these stars are probably maybe this one here, maybe this one here. These are all going to be part of this multiple star system. But the trick is, well, which is A? And let's assume that we can see this pretty clearly. You can guess that that's probably going to be a little brighter. And this is a little dimmer, but it's brighter than this one, and it's brighter than this one. And so we might, and then if we take a look up here and we recognize that A to B is 18 and A to C is 81, well, this is less and this is more, and this one over here is 119. Well, gee, this is even more. And then we've got C to D, and well, gee, here's one, and this looks like it might be 5 seconds of arc. Remember that we're talking about seconds. And so you kind of start to put the puzzle together, and this is what I came up with. And I think it's pretty accurate. Here's A, here's C, here's B. I'm sorry, that's D. Here's B, and here's E. And if you match them up with the position angle, so here's north, and A to B, there's west. It figures out, it makes some sense. And I've got some more information here. So this is sort of, without belaboring you guys anymore, this is the sort of work that you need to go through in order to do this. And well, some would say, why do this one? Is it hard? Yes, it is indeed. This project is a challenge, but it was designed to be. It's designed to be a bit of a head scratcher, and that's pretty cool. It really is an excellent second step for those of us who are interested in doing double stars. So that's one of the great ways, one of the great reasons to do this project. It's not easy, but then you learn a lot in the process. I think another great reason to do this project is that you can do it in less than wonderful skies. I do it. I've done most of them here, right in here in Stillwater, and you know, the skies here aren't much better than any place else in the metro area, and I've been able to do it, and I've been able to enjoy it. That's pretty cool. But I think one of the main reasons to do it is that we all like seeing different and interesting things in the sky, and especially things we've never even thought much about. And here is a collection of some of the most beautiful multiple star systems in the sky. You know, you look at a star cluster, an open cluster, let's say, for example, and you're looking at a fairly open cluster, and you can see some interesting things that might be asterisms. You know, they might be they might be somewhat connected. Obviously they're somewhat gravitationally bound because they're all in the same open cluster. But these are entities unto themselves, not parts of something bigger. And they're really, some of them are surprisingly pretty. And then you kind of get sucked into it. You look at it and you're going, gee, I wonder which one's A and which one's B and which one's C and D and E. And there are some that actually have 5 and 6. And it's kind of cool in a geeky, nerdy sort of way. So anybody have any questions?
Not a question, but a comment, Jerry. You know, I was looking at your sketches and you know, trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how much magnification do we have to do? So I did a quick lookup of what a C8's focal length was, and you said you had a 14 millimeter eyepiece, and that's only 145 power. So that was kind of reassuring that you didn't require super high magnification to get those small separations between the stars.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, oftentimes the seeing is more important. In fact, in some ways, I have been able to see the separations more clearly with lower mag, just because then you're not magnifying the atmosphere. But certainly, that having been said, in many ways, to a degree, the bigger the telescope, the better, because you're just going to get a higher level of resolution in a larger telescope than you will in a smaller. But this one is certainly doable with a C8, and I could have used a 6 millimeter, and that would have, I don't have my charts in front of me. That would have been a substantial amount, but it would have been more than necessary.
So Jerry, do you have anything like a lighted reticle with like a micrometer on it?
I do, but I don't use it. What I do use is I use a piece of heavy cardstock that, in fact, what I'll do, I'll make a note to myself. In the observing forum, I will include the most recent Sky List on this. I'll include the most recent frequently asked questions, and I'll also include what I'm going to tell you right now. It's a cutout of the with an 1.5 inch diameter hole that you that is a cutout of the degrees, and what I do then is I slide my eyepiece into that hole in that piece of cardboard, and I put the cardboard into my my star diagonal, and then through various means, whether if you could turn on, if you're using a drive, which is really helpful to have a drive doing this, because it not so much this one, but this one took me probably a half an hour to figure out. And it's really nice to have a drive, so you're not struggling with that. But if you can turn your drive off, then you can figure out where west is, and then you just align your this piece of paper, and then I go from there. And so, hence the reason why sometimes mine aren't exact, because I do have a lighted illuminated reticle, but that gets really problematic, and it's a 12 millimeter, and it's a very narrow field, and it's one of those Meade's astrometric eyepieces, and frankly we all know they're kind of junk. Mostly what they're used is make sure you have the dead center of the eyepiece for if you're centering up your go-to, or if you're wanting to measure something on the moon. That's really helpful. So I don't use it much for this, and I just you get better at it. Anything else?
Thank you, Jerry.
So finally, get out there and observe, guys and ladies.
Awesome.
I will toss it back to you. Yes.
Yes. So next up is Ron Schmidt. Our featured presenter for tonight.
I don't know about that. I think Jerry just took that role.
Oh no! You're the highlight tonight.
Where did all that screen go to? There we go. Relatively fuzzy. That works. Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks for letting me stop by and present to you a little bit. Got a couple things I wanted to talk to you about. First thing, I just want to mention that there's a new movie out. If any of you saw the movie back in 2019, Apollo 11, it was an amazing film. A lot of it used the 70mm film, which was pretty much the HD of the time. They made a movie just a couple of years later after Apollo 11. It didn't do really well in the theater, just like the rest of the Apollo program. Been there, done that. Public support waned. And so they shelved that footage, and there was a lot of leftover footage. And Neon production house, and you see the guy's name there, Doug Miller, went ahead and put this footage together, and it's amazing. And if you hadn't seen Apollo 11, it really is stunning. The footage is just unbelievable. I got a little misty watching it because it was just so amazing. Well, they've come out with another movie, and it's called Quarantine. So they are adding some footage from, if you remember, after Apollo 11 got back, they ended up in a trailer. They had to stay in there for 21 days, 3 weeks, to make sure that they didn't get any space germs. And so they're releasing a new movie that covers some of that activity. It's in IMAX. Make sure you see it in IMAX. I've seen the Apollo 11 movie on regular film. I mean, on a regular format, like on a regular TV, big screen TV, and it's terrible because it really is built for IMAX. The images are so huge and incredible. So I've got to stop gushing. But it's running in IMAX now. The theater in Rosedale, the AMC IMAX in Rosedale has it. So check your movie times. Hey, we got a request for some information about the coder at the Eisenhower Observatory. So I want to give you a little tour of the Eisenhower Observatory. Here it is out on Hopkins at 12th Avenue and Highway 7. Up on top of the community center there, you can see the dome. The patron saint of that joint is Larry Sauter, or Lawrence Sauter, Dusty to his friends. He was a shop teacher at Hopkins High School at the time. And as they were building the new high school, he proposed that they put a observatory on the rooftop. Now, what's super cool is this is even before the space program started, right? So he was quite a visionary. That is a drawing from the Minneapolis Star of Star Tribune fame, for you old timers there. They built the scope. He built the scope. He built and designed the scope with help from the students. There you can see this photo is dated May 23rd, 1955, as they're putting the ribs on the dome, and then you can see the pieces of the telescope there. Completed, you see Larry had a couple students there looking at the telescope, and it was used for the physics classes, but also for the astronomy club. They had a pretty big astronomy club there too. The telescope's still there today. We've still got a group of about 3 or 4 volunteers that give people tours of the night sky. They're open, we're open September through May, about 4 or 5 shows each month. Of course, right now we're closed with COVID, but we'll see if we can get that going sometime soon as well. Anyway, underneath the dome is what could best be described as 2 closets and an office. One of the closets there, you see that door right there. If you notice my cursor, that door leads to the closet that leads to the ladder that goes up through the ceiling up into the dome. This is what we call the office. And inside the office, we have a vapor coder. The vapor coder is a big bell jar, and we can fit a mirror in here up to 16 inches. We put a blank in the jar. We pump it down to a deep vacuum. We vaporize aluminum. It settles on the blank, and you've got a first surface mirror. So let's talk a little bit about this coder. There's a little history behind it. So we have to start with Herman Turner. He was at E&W Optical. You old timers would remember E&W Optical. It was like the telescope shop of its day back in the 50s. Lasted until the early 80s, probably, before they closed up shop. We've still got some people around that work there, including Mark Peterson, one of our MAS members. He coded telescope mirrors there, and he left to start Nortronics Company in Golden Valley, Minnesota in the early 60s. He built this coding machine. Originally, the purpose of this was to use a high vacuum technology to deposit gap material in magnetic heads. and modified this machine to do telescope mirrors and sent it off to Dr. Schultz at Macalester College. Well, who was that? Well, you guys will remember. You old timers will remember Dr. Sherman Schultz. He was an optometrist in St. Paul, had a practice in the Lahr Medical Building. He was an amateur telescope maker, built his first telescope back in the 30s. He had founded the St. Paul Telescope Club, and they met at the St. Paul Public Library downtown there. They had about 20 to 25 members, but there was a problem. The library closed at 8 o'clock, and so that didn't give much time to meet. Well, one time, Dr. Glock from Macalester stopped in and attended the meeting, and he noticed their problem, so he offered them a room off on the Macalester campus so that they could stay late. So after several meetings there, he was eventually asked to produce a night class for community ed in 1950, and he started making telescopes. He developed a telescope making class for J-term in 1965. It was just the right amount of time where the students have a break over January and they can take supplemental courses, some sort of enrichment. So he started making this telescope making class. And he used this machine, our coder, to code up telescope mirrors until he left in 1993. Now, after that time, his lab space was removed. They were remodeling the building, and so the coder was being scrapped. And we heard it ended up out on the loading dock. And we grabbed a truck and headed over there in 2002, grabbed it off the dock and brought it up to Eisenhower, where we installed it in that office space. Now, two of our Ike fellas, Bob Shaw and Mark Austin, spent about 2 years refurbing this thing and getting it running. And it is running today. We are coding mirrors for amateurs. We do about 3 or 4 coding sessions per year. We will take requests and build those up until we've got, a couple we can do in one night. The first run takes 2 hours, but after that, everything's warmed up and runs faster. So the subsequent sessions take a shorter amount of time. We do request that the mirror is stripped when you bring it up. And we do request a $40 donation to keep this thing up and running, because some of these parts, they don't make anymore. If you're interested, you can contact me by that Gmail address you see right there, or you can DM me in the forums, what have you, kind of easy to find. So what I want to do is go over the operations here. First off, lifting up the jar, there is a pneumatic piston in the back there that lifts the jar up. What you see on the left is the inside chamber, including the electric terminals that run the heaters inside. The primary heater is that tungsten element, and you can see some aluminum staples there. We fasten those staples on with a little needle nose pliers, and then you see there's some still melted on there. That's a little leftover from a previous run. Normally that'll get all used up, but sometimes when we start a new filament, it takes a few before this gets completely coated. We also have a silicon monoxide boat right on the back here. You can see here are 2 poles here for the filament, and then here's 2 poles up here for this silicon monoxide little boat. We heat that up after the mirror has been coated to provide a little transparent coating over the top of the mirror. Aluminum's highly reactive, so this coating protects the mirror surface and keeps that from reacting. So the source is ready. We put a shutter over the top of it, and we can go ahead and line up the sight window. Now, the sight window is going to provide us a view into the bell jar. You can see it has 2 halves. The side on the right will get coated as the aluminum is vaporized. This shutter on the left actually covers part of that window until the coating is done. And then we can, from the outside, open that shutter up. You can see the mechanism right down here to knock that shutter away. And now we've got a second clear window. And that allows us to see the silicon monoxide coating process to make sure that that happens properly. So there's a blank mirror we have mounted up in a stand. We've got several holders to choose from to fit the size of mirror that shows up. Again, we can do up to a 16. Here's an 8-inch mirror. We hang that face down in the chamber, and then give it a final spray of compressed air to make sure it's all clean, and we'll have a nice clean surface to adhere to. We add a shield around the outside, and we make sure to leave room right here for that sight window. And then we put, yeah, I know this is really low tech, but kind of a Jiffy Pop sort of covering over the top. This is to protect the bell jar, because the bell jar would get coated with aluminum if we didn't do this process with the shield and then covering over the top. So this prevents the jar from getting all covered up. Now you can see the bell jar in here. We do have a cage around it and a shield in case this thing implodes. You know, it's pretty old, and we don't want to take any chances with someone standing there and getting shards of glass. So we've got a little bit of protection built in there. Here's the control panel that helps us run the entire process, and then the pumps and pistons assemblies on the bottom there. So once we lower the jar, here's a rough diagram to give you an idea of what's going on. So when we close the bell jar, here we can see the blank. Here's the element down here, and this yellow represents ambient air. Okay, so the ambient air is in there. We close up the jar. We have a vent here. We close that vent, and then we fire up the rough valve. The rough valve is down here, the rough pump. And that starts to pump the air out of the system. So here we have the rough pump engaged. The air to ambient is closed off, and the bell jar starts to get pumped down. So a micron is 10 to the negative 6 meters of mercury column. So we're talking about a really, really low value of pressure. And the rough pump does most of the heavy lifting. It'll start going down. Once we get below 100 microns, we actually start an ion glow. And there are two electrodes in the chamber. We add a voltage to them, and they start to arc across and ionize any of the gases that are there and make them fall down. So once we get below 50 microns, we turn the diffusion pump on, and that really, really starts to haul the mail. There's the diffusion pump down there. It has a water jacket around it to keep it keep the temperature down so it doesn't get too hot, because there is a heater down there. So we close off the rough valve up here, and then we open up the chamber to the diffusion pump, and that starts to pump down. There's a big piston here that opens up, and that starts to pump down and really gives us a heavy vacuum. Now, a diffusion pump works by heating oil and then spraying it in a vapor form into the chamber below the mirror. That oil bumps into air molecules and knocks them down to the bottom of the pump, where they get pushed out of the outlet. So that gives us a really, really heavy vacuum. All right, and at that point, we switch gauges to an ion gauge. So here's the rough pump, takes us down to about 1 micron. There you see atmospheric pressure right up here, that green line there. So that rough pump will take us down to about 1 micron, and then it's the diffusion pump to take us down the rest of the way. So there's the ion gauge. Once it gets down to about 10 to the negative 4, you'll notice that the ions can no longer form in the chamber, so that purple glow goes away. Same purple glow you get with Northern Lights, by the way. So that purple glow goes away, and by that time, that gives you the heads up that, you know what, we've probably got enough of a low pressure that we can go ahead and shoot the aluminum. So we'll heat up the filament. The aluminum will vaporize and fly on up and hit the blank that you see there. We have a big variac down here that runs the amps up into the filament. And you can see through the sight window, you can see the filament glowing hot. So as you watch, the staples of aluminum will melt and sort of disappear as the aluminum vaporizes and heads up into the chamber. And as that happens, this window also gets glazed over. So we have to have a new window each time, and eventually have to clean off the aluminum from all of them. Now, this is a big, I love this thing. This is just a big metal piece that's threaded, and it's like a switch, because you take, you screw it in here to power the tungsten filament. And then when it's time to heat the boat, you actually unscrew that and then screw it in down here, because you're talking about some pretty heavy amperage there. And then you heat up the boat. And that boat, again, it's a heating element inside this little chamber that heats up the silicon monoxide, and that vaporizes and goes up into a vapor form and covers your mirror blank. So that's it. Once you got it coated, you can go ahead that shut off the diffusion pump, shut off the isolation valve, so you can now start to let ambient air back in and repressurize the chamber. And then you just go ahead and lift up the bell jar, and there you have a first surface mirror. Take it out, give it an inspection. We don't have any real technical inspection process. We shine it, we hold it up to the light, we see if there's any light shining through it. That's a pretty rough way to do it, but really, if you can't see any sunlight coming through it, you've got a good coating. We'll also check the surface to see if there's any variation. Sometimes you might see an imperfection if part of the mirror didn't get cleaned. If that's the case, we strip it and we have to shoot it again. We had to do that with Dave Faulkner. We had a bad spot in his mirror. We had to strip that off and coat his a second time. And it turned out a lot better that second time.
Yeah, I remember that.
There you go. Hey, I want to take the opportunity to thank Bob Shaw. Bob Shaw's the guy that worked for Nortronics and knew Herman Turner. He provided all this history and the block diagrams, and he actually did vapor coating on that machine. And so he was the one that he and Mark Austin, if you remember Mark Austin, Bob and Mark are the ones that did all the refurbing on the coater and got it up and running. He also started the research, outreach, that we have at Eisenhower. He was a student of Larry Sauter, and then continued the outreach program that we have that still runs today. And so we do want to ask if there's anyone that's interested in joining us at Eisenhower, not just to show people the sky with the telescope, but maybe just to run the coater. It's an old school machine. It's 1965 vintage. It is so super cool. It's got a real Flash Gordon feel to it, which is a lot like the telescope we have. And so if you're interested, again, my email address was up there, ron.schmidt@gmail.com, or ping me in the forums. I was thinking as we started the program, I used to make reference to the old timers, and I realized I'm one of those old timers. So we've got some old timers at Ike. We're looking for some young timers. We're looking for some new blood to add to our crew to keep this thing up and running and make it available to amateurs in the area. Not so much, we don't get a whole lot of activity from people that have ground their own mirror. We'd love to see more of that happening. But a lot of times a telescope that's, the mirror is oxidized over time and they want to put a fresh coat on it. Maybe they're getting back into it. Maybe it's something they inherited. So we want to make sure that this is available to the amateurs in the Twin Cities area for a long time. And we could use your help. So let me know if you might be interested in joining us. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks, Ron.
Hey, Ron, I wanted to mention that thing is as heavy as it looks too.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it was pulled from McAllister and we pulled it over to Eisenhower in a truck. I was the guy that drove the rental truck, rented and drove the rental truck.
Is that right?
And a interesting thing was I was following Mike Burr because I didn't know exactly the pathway to take. And I think we were going along Lake Street, that area. And the path diverges. And of course, I went the wrong direction. So I made a wrong turn going over to Eisenhower, but we made it finally.
Nice.
Ron, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you use that for anything besides mirrors, scientific-y kind of purposes, or?
Nope. No, we don't want to screw with it.
Can I throw a comment out there too?
You sure can, Merle.
Nortronics. That was my first real job after high school when I moved up here.
No kidding.
I worked there until
That's
1990 when they closed up the Golden Valley shop.
That is awesome.
Hey, Ron, can you post your email up there, please? Ron?
Yep.
Can you post your email on the chat, please? Because I have an old Celestron 11.4 first scope that I got like 20 years ago, and really I haven't used it recently, and last I saw it was kind of fuzzy.
There you go, Mark.
So it definitely could be used resurfacing. And they got a Google picture here if I can share it real quick. Nope, someone else got it. Okay. But it's got a Google Maps picture showing the observatory and such. Still up.
The observatory at Eisenhower?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah, still up. Didn't I mention that? we've still got a public program going.
Oops. Again. Grabbed the wrong picture on me.
There you go.
Hey, stop doing that to me.
That is our dome away from home.
Yeah. Zoom here.
Well, thank you, Ron.
Thank you,
everyone,
sir.
for coming tonight. And our next meeting is March 4th. See you all there or here. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you, Mark.
There we go.
Thanks, Ron. Good to hear you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to present.
Absolutely. Anytime.
You're on.
Yes.
How many times has the mirror blown up?
Never had one blow up.
Good.
No.
I'm still on the books, right?
Yes, you are.
All right.
Yeah,
Third time's a charm, maybe?
nah, we're itching to get back going.
Yeah,
COVID ruins everything.
I know it does.
More ways than one.
Yeah.
So Trina, how would you blow up a mirror?
I don't know. Shooting glass shards.
I'm thinking like an air bubble in it or something, but
I don't know.
Yeah, it is exposed to some heat. I mean, that tungsten element gets up there. So it's shining on the glass, and imperfections or strains that are locked into the glass could get released. So it's always a possibility. I should have added the disclaimer that your mileage may vary, and if it breaks, we're gonna apologize. But
so now the mirror blanks, are they usually made out of Pyrex or something like that?
oh yeah, borosilicate, Pyrex. Yep.
I don't know. I got a precious 14-inch that I don't want it to get ruined.
Ron will take good care of it. Don't worry.
I know. I know.
He took good care of my, well, at the time it was 12.3 inches. It wasn't quite 12 and a half, I don't think.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Thanks for clarifying that, Dave.
It's okay, Chris.
I own that mirror now, and the edge is getting a little crusty. I could recoat that.
I'm sorry, Dave. What was that? 12.3?
Yeah, it wasn't quite 12 and a half.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you had a big mirror.
I'm sorry,
Like
Chris.
Trina's, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Trina.
I think that falls in the category of bragging rights.
Yeah, it does. I'm okay with that.
Well, some people have to exaggerate what they have because otherwise they feel inadequate.
Chris is looking for that mirror enhancement.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just
It's not a
wanted to
12.
pat.
It's
I want to
12.3.
Unfortunately, I don't think in astronomy for mirrors, I don't think there's a such thing as like extensions on mirrors.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think you can actually pump it up a little bigger either.
So a whole bunch of secondaries, make them outriggers along the edge. Well,
No, just bigger and better.
curvature, schmervature.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Dave.
I'll try and get you on the email hopefully soon.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.